Hello, chaps. How's everyone doing? Simon, good to see you. Jacob,
Hi.
very good to have you back on, my friend. Actually, I was just looking down at my phone because I'm trying to share the live stream out at the same time. Folks, just to the six of you that have dived in, the seven of you now that have dived in, please do me a massive favor. Please just share it on whatever platform you're watching it on. It's going to be an exciting one. Obviously, Jacob is I say friend of the show. I've just basically plagiarized that from someone else, but he is a friend of the show. He's been on a couple of times. Good guy, based locally in the UK, which is really cool. I can see Simon's got a massive smile on his face because he holds some Chimpers as well. So he's been really excited about this. Jacob, how you doing? How have you been? And what's been happening, bud?
Yeah, no, all is good. Yeah, no, pleasure to be back. Yeah, it's been a while since the last one since we caught up, and to be honest, like when was that? Was it like a couple of months back? We've just been so
Couple of
busy.
months?
So
No, this is a couple of years ago, mate. Like I think it was on because when I interviewed you, it was a real long one. It was about 2 hours.
yeah,
And we just ended up just chatting like we were mates. It's on Substack. Do you remember that, Simon?
Yeah, I think it's end of last year, more like, I
well,
think, or something like
Yeah.
that. That's the thing we keep on talking about. Time goes so quick in this space, doesn't it?
It just folds in half, doesn't it? It just folds in half. In fact, Jake, the first time we actually met in person was at that meetup in Soho, which was really interesting because it was the first time I hadn't seen you with a beanie hat on. And I got you mixed up with Oliver because you got the same bloody haircut. There's the same, and I know you're identical twins, and I know it sounds ridiculous to say you look the same, but you do genuinely like there's literally no difference, which is pretty cool. So it was good to meet. It was good to meet with you in person. Finally, you are actually a lot taller than I anticipated. I thought you'd be short, a little bit scrawny, but obviously not. Were you about 6 foot?
no, I'm not. Well, I'd like to say so. Yeah, around that, but no, it's
Never let the truth get in the way of a good story. I mean, Simon's dating profile says 6 foot.
Oh, mate, I wish. I wish.
I think
Mine
everyone
just says
does.
old, very old,
No,
dating.
no, it's all good. Okay, folks, just to the 26 that have joined, just do me a massive favor. Please just share out the stream. Today's going to be a real good one. Obviously, Jacob back on the show. We're going to talk about everything NFTs and what he's doing over at Chimpers. Chimpers was kind of like the last hype mint of the bull run that we had. I think was it May 2022 that you guys launched?
Yeah, it was. It's
Yeah.
May 20th, 2022.
So just take me back to that time. So you've launched probably probably in the eye of the storm of the NFT bull run. Talk me through some of the conversations that you and your brother were having when you were launching. Obviously, NFTs were kind of this new technology. It felt not a little bit faddy to people in the space, but people on the fringes were a little bit faddy. So you launched this project. What was the plan? Like, when did you first start coming up with the idea of Chimpers?
Yeah, to be fair, so it was never like orchestrated really. It was, I've said it before, it was just like a natural evolution from, starting with Timpers, of course, like twin brother, like he's the artist. He came into the space first, and he obviously wanted to like dip his toes into the space because as an artist, like he wanted to create, he wanted to have people collect his work, and like this was the space to do that, especially like in the early 2021 period. And then subsequently, that led to him, joining communities, participating with different NFT projects, working with some in some cases as well, and naturally just started building reputation for himself. Getting well connected, building that network, and that led to him joining the Bored Ape Yacht Club, amongst like many others that he joined early on. And that's the NFT that he sort of centered his identity around, and one that he felt strongly about. And it started with an artwork. So this artwork that was minted in homage of the Bored Apes, he put out a post saying, he's creating this pixel art, which apes want to be featured. And it had like a huge response. So many different apes were sharing, because ultimately everyone who had an ape, they wanted to see it, depicted wherever it may be. That was the whole excitement around that time. It was like building things, like apes, using their commercial rights.
I think that
fun.
I think that's such a Trojan horse for people launching projects, which is just to become a part of the community first. Like be a part, become a collector first. We've seen so many examples of that. Like Luca Nets was a collector first. Obviously, Gary Vee got into CryptoPunks, and I kind of like that strategy of just. It probably wasn't even a strategy. It was just like you've built this network of people just by getting your claws into some of these in some of these ecosystems. Obviously, didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, not at all. I think it's hugely important. I think for anybody that is building a project, whether it's you as an artist, a collector, you need to build that like rapport with the community. Otherwise, it's really tough to get it off the ground. And yeah, that's sort of what Timpers did. Like not out of a strategic decision. He wasn't necessarily trying to create a
when you say
character
Chimpers,
collection.
you mean your brother? I'm just saying for the
Oliver, aka Chimpers, the artist of Chimpers. And yeah, so it started with the apes, started with that first artwork episode. Gordon and Gaga were really endorsing it because it was the interesting thing at that time for an artist to build something around the apes, build some story. And that's where I came in to sort of take it from just this individual artwork to build out a full series of 6 artworks, an ebook, story, animated production, loads of fun gamification and rewards. And it really galvanized the apes at that time. It was a really exclusive thing. Being an ape featured in it was one, but being an NFT holder of the Chronicles series was another, because there was only 100 editions per episode. And being that early, there wasn't necessarily a lot of art-driven storytelling projects at that time, never mind about the Bored Apes. So we was fortunate enough to get a lot of good momentum from that. And with Timpers also creating his own artworks, working on the Nouns DAO as one of the Nounders on that project, and just in general working with other NFT brands. Like, he'd really built a great profile for himself, and naturally people started to ask for more. Character collections, PFPs, they were launching left, right, and center. So we sort of held off for a long time. As I said, like May 2022, that was past the sort of euphoria, the peak bull run.
Because he had 40,000 YouTube subscribers, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, they didn't necessarily, it was interesting, they didn't necessarily cross over into the NFT space per se, but there was a lot of people, that's how Timpers came across the space, like being in that YouTube esports gaming scene. A lot of the artists that he was, connected with, who he was creating with, they entered the space first, and that's how he came across NFTs. So there was a fair few people that crossed over, and we were just reminiscing about this last week, actually, when we was out for some food, thinking about. You
can't say beers, mate. You can say.
Oh yeah, I mean there was a few beers as well, and yeah, we was discussing, when Timpers joined the space, like how that happened, and like a few artists in particular that were YouTubers as well, and they, came into the space, and now they've gone. They're no longer sort of active, but like, Timpers has just been, he's stuck around. He's completely switched gears, and that, I think that's a really cool thing. But that's sort of where it all came, and naturally we held off for a long time. Like for us, it was all about, like you said, building the community, building the culture, and we was really adamant that we wouldn't launch anything in the realm of a character collection until we felt really strongly that we had built a really strong spine, a really core, tight-knit community, and one where we felt that we had enough demand and traction really to sort of warrant the launch of a character collection, because we didn't want to just launch it for the sake of it. And yeah, like the question at the very start, like how did it come about, like that whole story, we never even anticipated that we would. It was just a natural sort of, we was playing in the sandbox, we was building things, was having fun in the community, and then only till a certain point we realized actually it seems like a lot of people would like to see this. So that's where it came from.
Yeah, I
That's
think that's
brilliant.
yeah, it is brilliant. And I think the thing I like about you two, firstly, that you're brothers. I did an interview with Taigio, and I did a research piece behind it around how actually brothers that work together and they can work together for long periods of time. It actually is a way of kind of de-risking your investment because you guys stick together and there's no ways that one will have the other fail. So it's kind of like it becomes this self-fulfilling loop if you just keep doing this thing, which is why when I look at you two, I just think this is going to be a forever thing with you guys. You know, this is like a passion project. I did read an article where I think you said something like you guys started this when you were 18, right? I
21 actually, yeah.
Right, 21. Okay, so I've obviously read the wrong thing, but I think people didn't take you seriously. You kind of felt like people probably didn't take you quite seriously. Now it's turned out that this is like the most successful UK NFT project. I was just checking out the floor price at 0.65 ETH. Bearing in mind we have fucking Armageddon going on at the moment in crypto, and like Chimpers is just like rock solid, which is a really good sentiment. But your dad's involved in the business as well, right?
Yeah, we've got it's a whole family affair really. Like
Yeah.
our cousin is involved. You know, we've involved like family members as well. So yeah, it very much is. And I saw a post from OSF today, and
Yeah.
it really resonated. I quoted it because it was sort of along the lines of, you know, for founders who have been around for these past 5 years, you know, it's almost like for us, like we get the brunt of the sort of dissatisfaction with like, you know, prices, like the general sentiment in the space because we're still around, we're still active. And whilst, you know, many who have, you know, come and gone, they're no longer, you know, present on the timeline, they've disappeared. And I think with what OSF said, like for him, he's just somebody that is not going to give up, like no matter what, even if things are stacked against him. You know, he's persevered, and he, you know, there's nothing that is going to stop him from trying to make it a success. And that's exactly how we feel, like you said, because we're a family sort of rooted team. And, you know, we've not been like just orchestrated by, you know, like a team that has not sort of, you know, built something from scratch really. You know, we've sort of been in the trenches with Timpers. It's a passion project, like you said, and yeah, for us this is just like all on. So it's a very different dynamic.
It's very impressive. It's very impressive because I think I sort of see the NFT ecosystem a bit like UFC. Everyone loses. It's like Kevin Rose. He's billed as the most influential person in tech, but it's the public scrutiny. I mean, we're seeing it recently with the Cardano founder, Charles Hoskinson. He's just like, he gets public scrutiny when the price goes down. And one of the things I wanted to ask you is like, where does that resilience come from, especially now that these assets are financialized and people are expecting a return? Whether you like it or not, people are buying these things with the anticipation of the price going up because they're bullish on you guys as people. You know, I've met you in person. You guys are really likable. I like the whole family thing. Also like the fact that you're on our doorstep in the UK, which is pretty cool. But where does that come from? Do you feel any pressure to kind of sustain the pricing of it?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think, you know, like the floor price is a reflection of like the general sentiment in the community. As much as you you know, you can try your best to you know, say that it's not, but it's you know, exactly that. And for us, it's like I said, of course, like the family rooted dynamic is something that really pushes us, like regardless of like the tough times, you know, whether it's like a good day or a bad day, you just keep pushing forwards. But also, I think just the substance of what we're doing, you know, over the past few years, we've transitioned from NFT project to NFT brand, and one that is like, you know, really broadened the extent of like who it can reach. And, you know, I think that substance of us going out into the real world, growing as a brand, you know, building the distribution, all of that doesn't change any, you know, regardless of the market, like that's still there. The fundamentals are there for us. And we know exactly the sort of direction that we're on. So when it is, like tough and like prices are down, like it can be, difficult, but for us there's that sort of North Star there, that we know exactly where we're going, and we're, doing everything that we can to make sure that it succeeds. And I think a lot of the sort of sentiment in the NFT space has been that, brands that have tried to do this have left the NFTs behind. So I think for us, making sure that we've balanced that, and over the past few months really aligned the ecosystem and like took like real direct steps to do that, whether that's, migrating to a new contract so that we can enforce royalties.
I like that.
I saw that.
Like
I did that.
Treasury.
How would you so I did a live stream the other day, and we were talking about NFTs, and then obviously I mentioned Chimpers, and then I look at some of the accounts and they all follow the Chimpers account, or not all of them, but there's some anomalies there, and they're aware of it, but they're not aware of the NFT side of it. And I see a similar theme with VeeFriends. They're doing a lot of physical stuff, the Topps Chrome thing. How do you bridge the gap between the value that you're getting on social media and the following and the attention flows, versus, I guess, the value of the NFT? How do those two things kind of match up?
That's the thing that we were straddling with. Like, we was building the brand and gaining a lot of traction, millions of followers, building real brand equity by, pop-up events, products, collaborations, really pushing ourselves in the character brand space. And I think that can only take you so far in terms of the sentiment around the NFTs all of a sudden becomes far better. And I think ultimately, collectibles value derives from like how much awareness there is around the brand, how much, fandom there is around that brand. So it's really important for NFTs to have that, because ultimately that's what is going to drive more value, because as the brand grows, more people will want to collect, and they might not necessarily be collecting the NFTs, but there'll be other parts in the ecosystem. And we had that, it took us to a certain point, but then there's like, how do the community directly benefit from that? And I think that's, as I mentioned, like we've been taking steps to really align the ecosystem where the brand success can actually align with the Web3 holders. And for us, it wasn't about, like reinvesting, licensing deals or revenues to the NFTs. It's more about like, how can we make small steps? So, drops that we do in the Web2 space, reinvesting some revenues back into the ecosystem, whether that's, buying Chimpers NFTs, whether it's buying the Chimpster token and fueling the Dojo treasury, which is ultimately used for reward seasons in our upcoming reward seasons within the Collector Hub. So we've built this Collector Hub, based it around all the NFTs. Collectors now have a collector score, which will give them certain entries in raffles, and the Dojo treasury, which we built as a result of royalties, Chimpster fees, revenues, assets from the business. Over 200 NFTs now, over 50 million Chimpster. Like, this is like the community treasury that has been funded by all these different sources. And that's a way for us to sort of align it. So, in many cases, some people might grow the brand and never reinvest back into the ecosystem, because why would they? But for us, it's a signal of intent, and one that shows as we continue to grow the brand, we'll continue to, support the ecosystem. So that's something that we've been, trying to, very much align recently. And then last month we launched the Collector Hub, which is, the start of that. And
Have you got the just jumping in here? Have you got is it a Chimperlution workshop? Is it the gems, etc.?
Yeah, that's again. So, go ahead.
Was it because I was thinking, it's interesting when you're a holder of an NFT, and obviously I'm a holder of Chimpers, and I do want to get a second one. Always feel like having one isn't a good idea.
Infinite regret, Simon. This is the thing.
I know.
You can't sell it.
Exactly. But it's really interesting when you are a holder, because you have a different kind of perspective, I suppose, because you really pick up on the nuances of how the founders are being and showing up. And the thing is, I genuinely have always been so impressed by the fact that there seems to be quite relentless work ethic, but also pretty relentless creativity as well. You know, those two things seem to come hand in hand. And I've said, I think I mentioned to you when we messaged each other on X, I said the thing I was so amazed about was that you seem to just reach out almost like at a personal level to every person. It's so easy to be a distant founder or a distant artist, but you seem to be really, really there on it. And that makes a huge difference as someone who holds.
I would second that. I've messaged you at about 2 a.m. in the morning, and I don't know if it's a product of always communicating.
Thanks a lot for that.
It's probably a product of having to message the US folks and being on different time zones. But I think whenever I've messaged you, you've always had that kind of boots on the ground family feel. It kind of really has that about it. I'm just going to address some of the comments that people are putting in the chat quickly. Timothy Wiley says, really informative episode. Really find the Chimpers NFT project inspiring. Well done. Timothy might be from the UK, which is so appreciate you commenting, Timothy. Triple B, good morning, legends. And we might have some of the Chimpers in the house here. I don't know who that is. 8 MEA Cake. I'm getting used to reading some of these odd names. One of the things I want to ask you is, I don't know if you saw the live stream with Gary and Spencer from Spencer Ventures, obviously, or formerly Spencer Ventures, but he did these blind boxes. I think he's selling them in Walmart or something. And it was interesting the way the live stream went. I think there's someone else just dropped another thing in here. We got another chimper. I want to shout out the Chimpers because I really appreciate you guys diving in here. Nicro. He's just commented chimp. Gary alluded to, and obviously, like in my opinion, I think he's probably further along in his career, ahead of, I guess, a lot of people in Web3. And one of the things he suggested was, before putting out the merch, because there's pressure from NFT holders, is actually to develop the stories of the individual characters and push out the stories. And I think if you kind of look at VeeFriends as a bit of a model for it, and the secondary sales on eBay, you can see that there's a lot of stuff happening there. Is there, can you give us any insights into how you might be developing the stories of the individual characters? What's the vision for it? You know, is it going to be like a cartoon thing you're going to develop it into? Is it just going to be merch, or what are you planning on building out?
Yeah, definitely. I think, so like content is like everything, and it's one of the like primary reasons that we endeavored down to it like in 2023. So, you know, a year after we launched Chimpers, we realized that we needed to reach more people. We, you know, for the brand to grow and for us to, you know, push Web3 forwards in some ways, like we need to be on different platforms. We need to be building content, and that's why we made the mascot Chimpy, the core character, the face of the brand. And, you know, this sort of cheeky adventurer that isn't quite yet ready to train in the dojo, but, you know, embarks on these adventures and is this character that people can relate to quite easily. And yeah, sort of, you know, bring him into their life in some ways, whether it's like, you know, just on the train or at home. And we've found that over the past few years, you know, people's love for Chimpy and like the side characters that, you know, join him and accompany him on the reels, it's just grown so strong where, you know, now we're seeing people create products out of their own sort of love, whether it's like plushies, whether it's like, you know, a game like Tomodachi Life, creating Chimpy in there. And these are people who have no sort of understanding of Web3. These are people who have just, you know, loved watching the content over the past few years. And, you know, that's the biggest signal for us. And I completely agree with Gary that you have to build that fandom. You have to build that emotional connection with viewers, with the audience, so that, you know, they can go down that funnel, because, you know, it's one thing to have followers, but then it's another thing to have like engaged followers, and then another thing to have followers and engaged followers that are going to purchase. So this funnel is a very like comprehensive, complex thing that you need to nurture over time. And, you know, for us, that's why we've been quite, you know, delicate with what we've launched with Chimpers. You know, we've only just recently, this last week, launched our online shop after 3 years of building content. And, you know, now sort of expanding more into physicals. Over the summer we had our blind box plush keychain sale, and 3,000 of those were sold out in 8 hours or something like that. Ridiculous. Wow. And that was only a result of real efforts of weekly content, building a deep connection with fans. And just the same way that we're relentless on Web3 and X, you have to do that as well with people over on Instagram and TikTok. And we have a Discord where there's over 500 people who have just come into it just because they love Chimpy, just because they love the storytelling. And yeah, this is the sort of starting point for us. We've had over 600 animations over like 3 years made like every single week, and it's just only deepening that connection with every single video. But the Chimpers world is like deeply comprehensive as well. What people see on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Pinterest, wherever it may be, it's more of a sort of instantaneous sort of content.
Did you just say Pinterest?
Yeah, Pinterest as well.
Wow.
We had a collab with Fugglers in November,
right.
One of the biggest plush brands in the world, and the content that lives on there is pretty evergreen. Like, it's always ticking over. And we posted some photos of the Chimpy Fuggler that we did in collaboration with them, and it has over hundreds of thousands of views. And every single week we're getting people reply to it saying, where can I get this Chimpy Fuggler? Like, where can we get more of Chimpers? So it's like being present everywhere and like building these touch points. But yeah, it's like I said, that's the sort of first touch point with Chimpers on social media. But the world is far more comprehensive, and on the Web3 side, there's the whole NFT collection, 5,555 Chimpers. They have the whole Chimpverse. All the chimps now have backstories, different regions, different factions. We've got a 6-part chapter novel around the whole foundation of the Chimpverse, the Ancient Chronicles. So the storytelling is really deep, and then it's all about like just balancing it. Like, for us, we decided that the strategy was reach out to the audience first with something relatable, pull them into the world. And over time, that's where you can start to unlock those storytelling moments, introduce new characters, introduce new parts of the world. But first and foremost, you need to like have a reason for people to care in the first place. So
I wanted to ask you, Jacob, just a quick question, because it's really interesting, because you're so relentless and productive as a team, what you're putting out there. At the same time, you said a few times, which I think is brilliant, is you're very thoughtful about actions you take and decisions you make. You don't do anything until you're feeling really clear. And I was just fascinated to know how, as a team, you make those decisions. I was thinking about whether you have really defined roles. I imagine you as a family, you're all sitting around the table saying, right, we're going to be really thoughtful about how we do this. But is there a kind of process? I'm always fascinated in this anyway, from other reasons, and the working with teams, how you come to those decisions, what the process is.
Yeah, definitely. I think it depends, like what we're working on. Like, just for instance, as an example with the Collector Hub, that was a product that has been scoped out and built over several months. And of course, it's like with like the Chimpers Direct team, but also like a development studio that we work with. And that's a result of just regular calls, like weekly meetings, just building out and fleshing out sort of thoughts on calls, but also using Notion, using different tools to just build everything together, and then think about like what exactly we want to do. And like building out that MVP for the Collector Hub was something that we was able to do over several months. But I mean, and then in some cases it's just completely off the cuff, and it's just like a Discord message. like, shall we do this?
Yeah,
let's do it.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, it always sounds like you must be really strategizing with this core team, actually sitting down and saying, look, are we really clear on what we're doing here, and what are the downsides doing this, etc., etc.
Exactly. So I mean, even in the case of like Chimpster, like the token strategy ecosystem, you know, that example, like that was something that was really, you know, thought about quite deeply over like a long period, and it just felt like everything aligned, and we felt really confident that we would, you know, be benefiting the community, and yeah, you know, we have been pretty delicate with how we approach things, whether it's like second collections, like launches. But first and foremost for us is just like, how, like, is this building value to the community? Like, is this going to bring fun? Is it, you know, going to bring other communities together? Those are like the core principles really for us. And if those are checked, then you know, it feel a lot more strongly about.
That's your kind of North Star, isn't it? What is this adding to the community? What's this adding to the brand, etc.? Yeah.
It's why I like the way you guys adopted the strategy token, because you could see that it wasn't extractive. When you guys jumped on that quite early, I thought, there's something here with this TokenWorks ecosystem. Obviously, and I'll get your opinions in a second. Obviously, the TokenWorks, or Punkster itself, the token has kind of tapered off a little bit. But that doesn't change the fact that you now have this immutable protocol, this perpetual buying machine, which is buying up the floor of your NFTs. Obviously, it takes a rake out of Chimpster, the token, builds up in a treasury. When it has enough money to buy the floor, you have a perpetual floor buyer, which I think gives added confidence to the NFT. But it creates a really good entry for people who can't afford the NFT. You know, like you came up on my radar when I was looking at the TokenWorks website, and I could see that Chimpster was performing, and then you kind of lean in, you buy a little bit of Chimpster, and now I'm leaning into the NFT, and I'm in the Discord, and you know, and I'm like, it's kind of like a low entry. I can get a bit of a taste for it. I can feel a part of the community without having to spend maybe, I don't know, $1,500 on an NFT, and I just think it's a good low entry versus it being a TGE. Now, just going back to what Simon was saying around the decision making. Talk me through the decision making you made versus a TGE versus a strategy token.
Yeah, I think again it was like thinking about, is this in the realm of something that we can handle? Like, do we feel confident that we'd be able to manage like another product, essentially, which a token is, another community? And I think because like they're so intrinsically connected to the NFTs, it was almost just like an extension and a low barrier to entry. And it does avoid that sort of that sort of reoccurring example of token launches, which was, you know, as it launches, you're left picking up the pieces, so the community, and you have two products that you're managing, and ultimately just trying to keep the price afloat for both of them. And you know, a lot of them don't necessarily have like an intrinsic like use case, so it is really just a meme coin. And for us, like, we didn't want to do that, so I think the fact that it was connected to the NFTs was important. And yeah, like, it does enable people to join through a low barrier to entry. And for us, it meant that the community could get in from zero. We could build this from the grassroots, you know, from the ground up together. And I think that just aligned with our ethos of like how we built Chimpers, the NFTs. You know, it just felt like quite a natural thing. So yeah, it's definitely a journey, and there's obviously, you know, downsides to it. Like, it's, you know, not a perfect, you know, experiment. And I think, you know, with time, like, we're going to be sort of chipping away at like what is like possible with the realms of the token work, you know, ecosystem, and yeah, just sort of trying to be a bit more nimble with what's possible. And we've already attempted to do things, whether that's like enabling transfers, you know, weaving it into our ecosystem with payments soon, like through our card app or whatever it may be.
So they can pay with Chimpster for the physical assets.
Yeah, so that's something that we want to. It's complex, but it's something that
That would be cool.
we're
I don't
working
know how
on.
that would sort your tax event out, because
Yeah, exactly.
I think in the UK we're obviously more regulated than other parts of the world. You'd have
Yeah.
to try and track your. Have you got any? Because there'll be a whole bunch of listeners watching who got into the TokenWorks ecosystem. That's probably how they found you. Have you got any general thoughts on Punkster or Punk Strategy, the token, and maybe some of the stuff that Adam's been doing over there?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's experimenting, is he? Like that, isn't he? So that's his like whole. Yeah, like his whole persona is like building out experimentations in the TokenWorks ecosystem. I think, on one side, like all of the things that he's doing is driving more awareness and attention to the TokenWorks ecosystem at large. And, of course, you'd hope that strategy sort of tokens benefit from that too. But, I have also seen the opposite view of, he should be, focusing solely on, the strategy ecosystem. But it's like you said at the start, it's just a perpetual machine. Like it'll exist whether or not he is involved in it or not. And I think he believes that like that is, that's sort of the, not the chapter closed, but he has taken it to a certain extent where now it's sort of up to the teams that are building around it. So
you say that, and I'll just dive in there quickly. I spoke to Tiger, and I know that you guys kind of cross swords with each other because you guys are good friends, aren't you? You're good friends with the Good Vibes Club.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
there are founders that I speak to that don't. You'd be surprised they don't understand the strategy ecosystem, and I've long believed that maybe there's just a little gap there for a little bit of a client relationship or business development, where it's like, okay, how can we build relationships and actually teach people and take away a little bit of the friction of getting into this? Because you had to cross swords with an already successful NFT project in Good Vibes Club, just to make sure, just to kind of dot the I's and cross the T's with this. And I imagine there's a whole bunch of other NFT projects that have the same. I mean, we spoke to Betty at Deadfellas. She was saying, look, I try to get hold of Adam. We try to get this off the ground. Same with World of Woman. So there's a little bit of that. And I think there's just a little gap in education here. And whether maybe it's Adam just jumping on live streams. Hopefully Adam is watching this, and if he wants to jump on our live stream anytime, we won't come in there like the Gestapo, will we, Simon? No, I'm only joking. But I just Sam, obviously going to segue into general market questions.
Yeah, I kind of saying what Jacob was saying about, and I said it a few times. I can see from his point of view, he feels he's done it, built it. Now it's over the individual collections and people to do what they will with it, and run with it and be creative with it. It's almost like I've given you something, you've now got it, over to you. What else do you want me to do? And I do get your point, Jaden, about possibly the education side of it. I can also see that he is a creative, he's highly innovative, and he's probably now done it. In his mind, it's the next thing. And I can see that. And I was going to say to you, Jacob, I mean, you're obviously thinking at the moment about how you keep innovating with it. Is that right? You're thinking the whole time, okay, it's ours now. What are we going to do with it?
Yeah, like within the realms of what's possible. And, even like the Chimp Millionaire Club, everyone that holds 10 million Chimpster, they get a soul-bound, PFP designed by Chimpers, these sort of golden, elite, prestigious PFPs that are soul-bound. And, when you fall down the threshold of 10 million, they get burned. So it's this really cool club of like 20 plus people who own, a large supply of Chimpster, and they're sort of in the chat with us. It's like more of a deeper connection with those guys in that Chimp Millionaire Club. And like I said, some of the things that we were doing, like payments, like integration of transfers, and even like on the Dojo Club, our new collector hub, really what we've done there is build systems around the whole ecosystem where we're incentivizing collecting of art, the NFTs, but also holding Chimpster, and having like tiers of levels that you can be rewarded with points based on how much you own. And that's important because, you know, holistically, it depends on, you know, your collector score, and this collector score is going to enter you into reward seasons and raffles, whether that's, you know, the Genesis Chimpers that's in the treasury, you know, all of the different NFTs that we've collected, Chimpster. So it's yeah, like just building it into the ecosystem, weaving it into different areas, and just making it, you know, abundantly clear that it's, you know, connected to the
That's
NFT
nice.
ecosystem. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
nice one. David Chidgey, who is a regular on the show and also a member of the Carrot Lane private members group, he says, is there a source to learn about Chimpverse in a comprehensive way? If you answer that one.
yeah, definitely. So we do have the sort of world hub, which is world.chimpers.com, and that's like a huge archive of everything that has been launched, everything that we've done, and you know, you can access that on our collector hub as well. Like the dashboard sort of takes you to our shop, it takes you to the world hub, it takes you to the dojo, and that's collect.chimpers.com. But I have just put out a tweet on my own profile, NFT Insight. I've just pinned it to the top of my page. Everything that we've been working on recently, things that are upcoming, and my DMs are always open if anyone wants to learn more.
But yeah, and you do reply every time.
You do reply. It's brilliant.
Yeah, I do.
I was going to ask you actually, Jacob, just quickly, because you're also flipping relentless in your work ethic. Do you actually rest? Do you get a time out? Do you find a time out?
I get to like 11 a.m. like midnight, and I'm like, oh, I've not actually taken a second to disconnect yet, and it's like, and then it's bedtime.
Yeah.
So it's hard, like, because what I get a joy out of doing this, just regardless of whether or not it's just a side hobby or whatever it may be to decompress.
But, I get that.
Yeah, it just feels like you always want to move the needle a little bit further. Like, there's always something that I could be doing, and that's just how I feel. So whether that's like late at night here in the UK, like at a DM, like some more sort of like strategizing, like whatever it may be, I'm always just hands full with Chimpers. But
I just want to move on, because there's a whole bunch of people that were listening who are holding NFTs. Some would have joined the NFT ecosystem in 2021. Just get your general thoughts on the NFT market. Obviously, there's been this huge surge through trading card games, where obviously these gacha and loot platforms are like vaulting the physical asset, but then issuing a digital receipt, which is in effect an NFT. And some of the sales that have been happening over the last couple of months, like Courtyard, Phygital, Panini, who have their own blockchain, and they're issuing these NFTs. It's driving the collectibles market a little bit. We felt like we had a bit of a surge, but it feels like NFTs just like held down by, I guess, financial conditions. We need like interest rates to come down and things to be a little bit better for people to have more money in their pockets. How are you feeling about the general NFT market? Do you think we have some sort of a bull run potentially this year, or do you think it's into next year, or how are you feeling about it?
Yeah, it's in a very like unusual spot, like, because if we rewind like a couple of weeks ago, it felt like there was like a little bull trap, you know, like there was a lot of collections pumping, like even Chimpers, and that quickly dissipated. And I think now with like the crypto landscape also, like, you know, really bloody, like it always has an effect on NFTs. So it's a tough one, and I think a lot of people definitely have like traversed into like the collectible space, but again, like it's the fundamentals don't change, and like what we are doing hasn't changed, and you know, we're building, you know, so that we can grow the brand and build more affinity for the collectibles, and you know, it's just going to take time. But yeah, I think now more than ever, it's, you know, just giving people reason to care and believe and to be excited. And for us, that's just like you guys have been saying, being relentless, whether it's small things in Web3 or big partnerships, you know, big updates on the brand side. But yeah, I think with NFTs, it's you know, not all doom and gloom. Like we are seeing new mints sort of occur. Like we're seeing a lot of volume on these collections, and people do care about collecting. Like it's pretty obvious. People, they just. I think with the market, it'll definitely bring that resurgence back again, because it's not like it's disappeared. Like things are gaining traction. Things that are, this hasn't been prevalent for the past couple of years. New mints that have been able to stain for at least a few weeks and build real community. So
I guess
it's definitely a balance.
I think a huge function of obviously the NFTs that you've created is Ethereum, and the ETH has been down. You got this kind of double asset at play. Obviously, if people are up in ETH terms, they're more inclined to rotate into expressive art NFT assets. So you got that sort of play. I think that is the simplest explanation of why the NFTs have been held down, because of the Ethereum ecosystem, which has been treading sideways and sort of going down. Just before we're about to close up here, I just want to welcome any questions from the 173 of you that have joined us. Just to say a massive thanks to those who have shared the stream out as well. You can watch the recording, get the recording back on carrotlane.com. You just pop your email address in, or you can just do it through the link in my bio. Simon, do you have any final?
I was going to say, Jacob, Man United fan as you are, when partnership between Chimpers and Man United? That's my question.
Oh wow, that would be pretty insane.
At Old Trafford, you can imagine around the edges of the pitch. I mean, have you ever even considered having any kind of dialogue? Because you're a mad fan, so
yeah, it's an interesting one. I think that it could be a potential at some point. I think for us,
it's very ambitious.
Yeah, it's ambitious, but it's not impossible. I think for us, like what we've been sort of heads down focused on is like building collaborations and partnerships that are like deeply aligned with like the space that we're entering into, like the lifestyle character brand space, being sort of a character brand. So whether that was like Fugglers, like Molang, some lifestyle oriented places like Kung Fu Tea, and we've got another one upcoming at the end of this month with a really well-known character brand in Southeast Asia as well that is huge. So it's all about, like, for us, it's rubbing shoulders with those brands, because that's the space that we're in, and it sort of tells the fans over there that there's this association with the brand that their love is collaborating with is important, and it only sort of deepens our sort of spot in that space. And we're soon signing with a new licensing team agency that is basically operating in that whole world and is going to be working with us on a sort of multi-year long roadmap really to build out the Chimpers brand, and sort of operate in those spaces and further build those like deep collaborations with brands in that space.
I was going to say, it's the Man United mascot. It's got to be Chimpers. I mean, it kind of makes sense to me.
One day
it will be there. That's great, Southeast Asia, because I know the Bored Ape Yacht Club have a lot of concerted effort there, because there's a huge amount of interest in base over there, isn't there? And I think that's a fantastic market.
Yeah, the character brand scene and culture there is absolutely huge. It's what influences the West, and operating there so that you can build that real fandom and the discovery, like it'll translate across. And the team that we'll be working with is like a beast in that realm. Like they work with some of the biggest character brands. We've been working towards this deal for like the last few years. It wouldn't have been possible if we hadn't put in the efforts to grow the socials, be present at licensing shows like over these past 3 years. And now we've got to a point where they've been able to entertain it, and we've over the past few months been in like negotiations, and they're going to be a really great partner for us to like build this out over the long term. So,
and I presume there'll be more news about that shortly at some point.
Yeah, exactly. So it's
Brilliant.
for them to be on the Web2 sort of physical arm, the sort of distribution side, like building that affinity for the brand is what they're going to be, hugely helpful for. They have like global offices around the world. They have, a huge, team really that is going to, push us really well and allow us to focus on, both sides, like, social media, content, animation, collabs, what we're good at. But at the same time, they'll be, helping us put that infrastructure in place to really fast track things and do it the right way. So yeah, it's a really
exciting,
bullish one for us.
Fantastic.
Just coming to the end here, Jacob, I know that there's been a kind of pendulum shift to people wanting to lean into more kind of real life experiences, the meetups, which is a big thing. I know that you guys have got a meetup in Manchester on the 27th of this month. Have you got any more details about that you can share with people?
Yeah, so it's not even just for Chimpers holders. It's anyone, like, anyone who is into NFTs, more than welcome. So it's with Chimpers and Fugs. And yeah, the location hasn't been determined yet, but end of June. If you would like to come and want to,
I'm definitely put my name down. Yeah, I'll be there.
Awesome. Yeah, well, Craig, who put out the post, like, he's helping to organize it. And I don't know if you're familiar with Manchester Finest. It's like a page here in Manchester. They do all sort of restaurants reviews, and they're basically like a really big media page here in Manchester. And the guy behind it is actually a Chimpers holder. So I think him and Craig are going to be working on finding a location. And yeah, sort of just having a fun meetup with everyone.
That's awesome. I unfortunately can't be there because it's actually my birthday that weekend. So I've had plans. Just to let you know as well, just so there's no clash, is that's the World Cup game between England and Panama on the Saturday. So just make sure you do a little bit earlier if you're going to do it. Just I can see the grimace on your face. You're like, shit. There's a fucking clash. No, we're going to
show it.
There's no meetup in Manchester.
It's called off. We'll watch it live.
I don't think the Americans realize how big football is in the UK. It's like it's
and it's the World Cup in America as well. Of course,
it's our NFL multiplied by about 20. People live their lives by it, but obviously we come to the end here. Jacob, I just want to say a massive thank you for joining. Where is the best place for people to follow you? People who've been following the live stream, and where is the best place for people to kind of do a bit of a deep dive on Chimpers?
Yeah, so head to Chimpers HQ, our X page. From there, you'll probably find my posts shared. Feel free to reach out and shoot a DM, and very happy to get everybody up to speed. We've just launched Chimpers.com, a rebrand of our website. It's the new shop page, and it's more of like a Web 2 sort of landing point of view, more than anything. But collect.chimpers.com is our sort of Web3 new sort of home for Chimpers, and from there you can dive into all different parts of the ecosystem. So that's a great place to start. Myself, NFT Insight with a 1, not an I. Feel free to shoot me a DM.
Lovely, good stuff. Jacob, thanks for joining us. We'll definitely get you involved. We've got planned. We've got obviously a private group in Carrot Lane, and you're going to dive on with us, and it'd be great for the guys to be able to ask you questions and stuff like that, which is really good. Simon, thanks for joining. To both of you. Until next time, and to the 183 of you that have joined, really appreciate you guys. Catch you next time.
Thank you.
See you.
Bye.